Coming up on This Week in Tech, it's phones, phones, phones. There's the Mobile World Congress. There's all the announcements from last week. We find out which are crap and which are worth paying attention to. I'll tell you, there's more of one than the other. Also, Veronica Belmont announces something that could be used against her in a court of law. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Audio bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by Winamp for Android, the ultimate media player for your desktop and Android device, featuring wireless sync. Download it free at winamp.com/Android. Video bandwidth for TWiT is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 288, recorded February 13th, 2011. It came from the Nigerians. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Audible.com. Sign up for the Platinum plan and get 2 free books. Go to audible.com/twit2 and follow Audible on Twitter, user ID audible_com. And by GoToMeeting. Bring people across the country or around the world together with the web conferencing tool that's the best of the best. GoToMeeting. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomeeting.com/twit. And by Carbonite. Backing up files on your PC or Mac is safe and easy with Carbonite. For a free trial plus 2 free months with purchase, go to carbonite.com, offer code TWIT. It's time for This Week in Tech. I'm Tom Merritt, filling in for the vacationing Leo Laporte, who last we saw, he was being denied landing in Antarctica. We'll talk about that in a second. First, let's introduce our panel for this weekend. Joining us from Revision3.com's TechZilla show, as well as Core on the Sony PlayStation Network, and co-host of Sword and Laser with me, Veronica Belmont.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. I know you've been traveling a bunch.
Yeah, happy to be home and happy to be able to do the show. Sorry I couldn't make it into the TWiT cottage. I was just too much traveling, too tired.
Also from the Houston Chronicle, Mr. Dwight Silverman. Just recently had you on Tech News Today. Great to have you on TWiT now.
Yeah, good to see you again, and happy to be on TWiT as always. And I love being on with John and Veronica. This should be a lot of fun.
And there you go. That is our final man, Mr. John C. Dvorak. Last but certainly not least. It's a pleasure once again to be doing TWiT.
I just got back from Tahiti.
Yeah, I see. Is that where you got that shirt?
No.
Did you get that shirt at Walmart?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I'm usually shopping at Walmart every shot I get. Yeah, in Oakland.
Right off the 280 or the 880.
You seem to know where it is.
Yeah, it's right near the In-N-Out. This is TWiT, and this week we've got a lot of announcements coming. I wanted to give a little peek into the week ahead. Mobile World Congress is kicking off in Barcelona right now. Actually, there have been press announcements already today from Samsung, Sony, and Nokia. Tomorrow, LG is expected to announce their 3D smartphone. That'll be at 2 a.m. Pacific if you'd like to get up and see. Does anybody need a 3D smartphone? That's just gimmicky.
I thought all those phones were 3D. I mean, I've never seen a two-dimensional one.
Well, that new Samsung Galaxy S2 is very thin, so maybe
they're thinking they're
trying to play off that. Also, Microsoft's Steve Ballmer will be speaking at Mobile World Congress. That'll be at 7 a.m. Pacific.
Trying to explain away the Nokia deal.
Well, Nokia had their shot at it today, so it's a 1-2 punch. Non-Mobile World Congress news, Monday through Wednesday this week is when IBM's Watson takes on the Jeopardy champs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, great.
So this is the computer versus man trivia contest. It's going to be a bloodbath. Watson's going to kill, right?
You think so?
I think you could jam a nut. Well, you know, if they did it right, because I don't know if you've known anyone who's ever been on the Jeopardy show. But I've known 2 people.
I have known one person.
And and if you ask them about it, before you go on the show, they kind of first find out what your interests are. So they're not going to ask you strange things about Greek history. And then they kind of talk about kinds of general things that everyone should kind of know about. So they kind of give you a hint as to what direction the show's. They don't give you the answers or questions, but they kind of let you know kind of where it's going. So if they do that with the Watson to make things fair, In other words, tell the computer what they're going to talk about. The computer can load up with every trivia about whatever, and there's no way that you can beat the computer in that regard.
I have a feeling they're not going to do it that way. I bet they'll probably just ask a lot of generalized questions, and then the computer just knows so much off the top. It's more about the way they ask the questions. It has to kind of parse the English and try to figure it out, because a lot of the questions are like riddles, right? They're not just straight trivia questions or straight questions about history.
Or there's a rhyme involved. And I hope that the computer fails to answer the question in the form of a question. Now, that would be great. Sorry, Watson, but you did not answer. And then the computer would go, "What? I don't know what you're talking about." And it would the one small programming error,
syntax error.
Compute.
And they would start smoking.
Why would I answer a question with a question?
Doesn't the computer
exactly
have an advantage in the button pushing thing? Don't you have to be the first to push the button? Right.
That's true, right?
Yeah. How does the computer push the button? First, it has to know the answer, and meanwhile, it's digging through the...
So it sounds like the computer has an unfair advantage here, because...
I think it's got an unfair disadvantage.
They're probably not going to, like you said, they're probably not going to narrow the fields for Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter, because the computer has all fields.
Right.
And then the computer has the ability to just trigger the button remotely through some kind of
in a
wireless.
nanosecond.
Yeah.
And it's extremely fast, of course, so there's that. But don't, give Ken Jennings a chance. He's a smart guy, that Ken.
Now, when is this going to be?
This starts Monday, and then it runs through Wednesday.
It's
so
going to be the
episodes.
whole week is going to be, or this a couple episodes are going to be right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I may actually watch that.
It's worth putting on your DVR just to fast forward through, if nothing else. Tuesday, more Mobile World Congress announcements from HTC. We've seen a lot of stuff from HTC in the past couple months. I'm not sure that we're expecting anything huge from them. Has anybody heard anything in the rumor pipeline? I haven't.
No.
Wednesday, the Electronic Frontier Foundation turns 21, and they're having a party.
I can drink now. That's adorable.
Yeah. Also, the House Subcommittee is scheduling their net neutrality hearings to begin Wednesday. This is where Congress attempts to stop the FCC from implementing their guidelines. That going to happen? This going to be fun to watch? Should everyone turn on C-SPAN?
I don't like any of this, to be honest about it. I think the government's getting involved in. I mean, people went on and on about this net neutrality thing, but I'm totally convinced that once the government gets involved, they're going to start to regulate the internet in such a way that it's not going to be a good thing.
Hey, EFF agrees with you. Actually, they're kind of like, we believe in net neutrality, but we're not sure that we need the government to come in and enforce it. I personally think we need more competition, and that will ensure net neutrality.
Yeah,
because
I would rather go with your thinking than the current thinking.
Finally, Thursday, the HP Pre 2 that was announced, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, will be available for pre-order for $100 on Verizon. Will there be lines?
So now, give us the price again?
$100.
$100 for what?
For the HP Pre 2.
And so for what, $50 you get two of them?
Yes. Second prize, 2 Pre-2s.
They're selling it unlocked, too. How much are they selling it unlocked for?
You know what? I don't have the price.
Now you're talking.
I think it's something like, if I remember right, it's something like $450.
It's kind of high.
But it's not that different from the original Pre. I don't understand what the draw is, particularly when they've got the Pre-cubed and the Veer coming out later. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the draw is.
Yeah, I still don't know anyone with a Pre, but maybe my circle of friends is just not.
I know 2 guys with a Pre.
The target. I don't know. It's a decent phone though. I mean, it's not a bad phone, and that's a good price point. Like that's a pretty solid price point for it.
I know 2 guys with a Pre. Both of them have had to go back multiple times to get the hardware replaced, and Sprint is just replacing it. You bring it in and it's broken or cracked, or particularly the slider gets real loose, and they're just giving them back out again. So I'm not a big believer in it. It looks like it's not very well made. Hopefully the Pre 2 will be a little better. I don't know.
All right, let's go with the Mobile World Congress announcements that came today. Samsung did exactly what everyone expected. They announced a tablet and a new Galaxy S phone. The new tablet is a Galaxy Tab. Well, they didn't call it the Galaxy Tab 2. They call it the Galaxy Tab 10.1.
Lame.
After the screen size, 10.1-inch screen.
Oh, interesting. It'll
have Tegra 2 inside, honeycomb, dual cameras, so 2 megapixels on the front, 5 megapixels or 8 megapixels on the back. All in all, the specs sound pretty much like every other Android tablet I've heard announced.
Yeah. So, okay, next topic.
I think it's a solid competitor to the iPad, though. I think it's a good device.
Oh,
or at least
you're just being
nice. It's going to be a
nice.
really good device.
Just being nice. Just being nice.
Yeah, give them a chance. I mean, come on. It's got the Tegra 2 is really fast. It's got it's got a solid.
You never know.
Design.
They may be a sponsor sometime in the future. Go light with them. Go light with these guys. I mean, you never know.
It doesn't. None of it matters till we see the pricing on it, because if it can't,
well, that's the thing.
If it can't compete with the iPad in pricing, consumers are not going to go for it in droves. The disaster of the Zoom pricing is a good.
What are they thinking over there?
Awful.
Well, there was that Best Buy page that went up with the price at $1,199, $1,199, and then very quickly Best Buy yanked it down and said that was a placeholder price. It's not going to be that pricey. But $800 seems to be the consensus of what this.
That's still too high, isn't it?
Yeah, it is too.
It's a lot of money. I'd be excited about the 8 megapixel camera on the Tab.
That's really the only differentiator there. It's got
pretty hot.
It's got a pretty nice. Well, I don't even know if it's a nice camera. It's got more megapixels. That doesn't necessarily mean it. Yeah.
Samsung is a notorious company for having lousy cameras.
Which is funny because didn't they have the first 8 and 10 megapixel camera phones?
They need all those. They need tons and tons of pixels because of the blurry quality of the lenses and the rest of it. I think that's the reason. And who the hell needs that many pixels?
If I told you that this was a Tegra 2 tablet, 16 gig or 32 gig with Android 3.0 honeycomb on it, and didn't tell you it was the Tab,
sounds good to me.
you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it was any different from any other tablet out there.
I would, yeah.
So it's all going to be differentiated on price point, I have a feeling. The other thing they announced was the Samsung Galaxy S2, a dual-core phone, 1 gigahertz CPU, 4.3-inch Super AMOLED Plus screen, and as we mentioned earlier, extraordinarily thin. Everybody's raving about how it just kind of disappears in the hand. I believe
that's
Chris Ziegler from Engadget cut himself on it.
He was bleeding uncontrollably. It was awful.
No, the shell measures 8.49 millimeters, making it probably the thinnest smartphone that's been put out yet.
I like that. You can also use it as a weapon.
Yes, that's right.
Just flick it. You could.
You get something stuck in your teeth, you can just use it that way. Use a glossy finish on the back. Yeah, it's great.
Is it running 2.2 or 2.3?
You know, I'm looking for that. I think I recall seeing something that it was going to come out with 2.2 when it comes out, but I'm not. I may be confusing that with one of the other announcements today.
Yeah,
because I don't see that right
updating it. I hope they're better at updating it.
Chat room is saying 2.3.
Okay, it's 2.3. You're right.
2.3. Oh, that's good. Okay, because Samsung's been awful about updating the Galaxy line of phones, and that's been a real problem with Android. And I hope that they do better at it, starting with this one.
Does anybody on the show here have one of these Samsung phones or any sort of Samsung phone ever?
We have the Nexus S, which is a Galaxy phone.
Right.
Eileen uses it, so I get to play around with it sometimes. It's a nice phone. It's a great phone. Any of the faults of the Nexus S, in my mind, are faults of Android, not faults of the phone. Phone works great.
Well, the Nexus S doesn't have a front-facing camera, though, which I kind of wish it did. It's a great. The Galaxy S cameras are nice. They've got these odd little glitches that most of them have been fixed. Like it came out with terrible GPS initially. GPS couldn't connect and hold.
The chat room I'm sorry, but the chat room's got a bunch of these phones. They love them.
Yeah, people who have them love them. People who have them love them.
Also, the TouchWiz interface is Samsung's modified Android interface might be coming on this as well, which could not ruin it, but that could change a lot of people's minds. A lot of people just want the generic interface. Nexus S has a front-facing camera.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. So says Eileen from the other room. And she's got one in her hand, so I tend to believe her.
She's like, yeah.
All right, Sony also had their Mobile World Congress announcement today as well. The Sony Ericsson Xperia Pro was announced. The Sony Ericsson Neo was announced, but the star of the show was something we've pretty much seen everything about, the Sony Ericsson Xperia Play, which is the first phone to have the PlayStation Mobile Suite in it. It's essentially going to be the flagship for that experience, and everybody who's got their hands on it out there seems to be saying nice things about it. Maybe they're just full of hamon and kava, but everybody says the buttons feel good. It's fun to play on, and they've got some good titles to launch with.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of big titles on there. I'm just curious to see what's going to be exclusive to the Xperia versus what's just going to be available on all Android phones. I wonder if the interface will have any, not the interface, but rather the buttons in the control scheme will have any effect on what titles get shipped on Xperia versus other Android devices.
Right, because the PlayStation Suite will be available for all Android phones. They announced today that the system will ship with Asphalt Adrenaline 6, Bruce Lee, Star Battalion, The Sims 3, and Tetris, along with a, quote, legendary PlayStation title.
Which would be, what's the big PlayStation title that would be legendary? One of the big ones. Does anybody know?
God of War? I have no insider knowledge on this, by the way. I'm totally just making stuff up. Yeah, I don't know.
Angry Birds for the PlayStation.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's think about it. It's Sonic for Sega. It's Mario for Nintendo. It's Halo for Xbox. What would be the legendary Sony PS?
Pathetic. We're not big gamers, apparently. We know.
I know.
Right at the top of our head.
No,
we know.
I have
Somebody
my
in the chat room
Final
knows.
Fantasy.
I made
Everybody
my guess.
Final Fantasy?
Oh, maybe.
That could
be Final Fantasy.
That's a good guess, too, yeah.
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank.
What's that game?
Everyone's saying Metal Gear Solid. They're saying
Metal
Tomb
Gear
Raider.
Solid's another one, yeah.
What is the game that was initially available only on the PlayStation where you kind of roll junk and make a bigger ball?
Katamari.
Katamari Damacy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting on a phone. That would be
That
very.
would be
that was on a Nintendo game.
Internal like the accelerator and the gyroscopic like internal accelerator, you know, to roll the ball around and catch things up in the Katamari ball.
Yeah,
I remember
No
that.
one's
That was
with
a
me on
great
this?
game,
Come
actually.
on.
I
No,
like
I
that
like
game.
that
That was a great game.
That would be.
We're all too busy looking at the specs of the Sony Ericsson Play.
We're all online here. It's pathetic.
We're all IMing people.
What kind of a show is this?
Tony upstairs says Gran Turismo.
That could be.
Yeah.
We could. You know, it's like
It would have to look really good for Gran Turismo to be it.
Well, and they're
I don't know,
already
'cause-
doing the Asphalt racing game.
How about Grand Theft Auto on the play? On
GTA.
Don't you think it'd be great?
Yeah.
Because you'd be sitting there on an airplane playing this thing, and you're like bashing a hooker. You know.
John, your knowledge of video games is impressing me. I have to say, I'm very impressed right now. Are you a big GT5 player? GT4?
No, I don't even know what I'm talking about. To be honest about it.
I'm just saying words. They sound like they're from video games.
Just words.
Are we impressed with either of these other phones? The Xperia Pro is a slider device with a full QWERTY keyboard, 3.7-inch screen, gigahertz Snapdragon CPU, Gingerbread, Android 2.3.
I think
another 8-megapixel camera, this time from Sony, though.
I think the more interesting story is this Nokia deal.
Yeah, let's the Neo is the only thing we didn't talk about. That's the Sony that's the Sony miniature phone. It's not quite a feature phone, but it's a more affordable smartphone.
It's like a Neo Node, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
You don't have a copy of it there, though. That's not it, is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh. Well, Neo Node was half that size.
It's a little bigger than that. All right, let's move on to the Nokia had their announcement today as well, and their announcement involved no phones. It was Stephen Elop on stage defending the decision they announced on Friday to partner up with Windows Phone 7 as their future strategy.
It was a classic. Did you watch the whole thing? I watched the entire event.
I watched most of it. I had it on while I was working, so I missed a few pieces of it here.
I'll tell you, I took some notes. Of course, I didn't bring it with me. You know, I think, for one thing, Elop is very much, he's got the same cadence and style of Bill Gates when he speaks. And there's a certain cadence that comes out of Microsoft that is you know, it's just Microsoft-y. And I've run into a bunch of these guys, and they come out of Microsoft as executives, and they go to other companies, and they do the same thing. They have all these ideas, and they think that they're going to be successful with them. But I'm always thinking they never seem to get it, that when they were at Microsoft, they were part of a monopoly company that really didn't have to do a lot of, you know, original thinking. And they didn't have to make the right decision. The right decision at Microsoft was, let's don't kill Office.
Yeah.
And let's don't kill Windows. And that's it. That's the only decision you have to make. Anything else you do is just, is gravy. And
so do you think this is not a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's not a good idea. I think they should have at least, although nobody asked the question, I was very disappointed in the media because they didn't ask the question of Elop whether or not they kept the option for Android open. He did mention that they're keeping...
Doesn't sound that way.
Doesn't sound that way, but he did keep the Migo option open, So it's a possibility.
Yeah, what they did is they said, we're going to partner up with Microsoft. They're going to give us Windows Phone 7. We're going to give them NavTech mapping. And it's going to be a tight partnership. We'll be able to actually change the interface, which nobody else has been able to do. Symbian becomes what they call a franchise platform, which I guess is Finnish for we're phasing it out.
Right, exactly.
And then MeeGo becomes a research and development platform. They're going to put out one MeeGo device this year, and he kept saying today in his announcement, and it's going to be the disruptive platform of the future. We're saving it for disruptive stuff. I don't know what that means at all.
Well, the other thing, anyway, there's a couple things going on in Finland. There's a walkout at a couple of the factories. The employees are irked about this guy and the whole process. And there's a term going around around Finland called GOOF, GOOF, and it refers to get out of Finland, because everybody believes that that Microsoft is either going to do a deal and either buy most of Nokia and outsource it to China and pretty much closed down, killing 150,000 jobs in Finland. This is what they believe in Finland. And so this is problematic because if you've been to Finland or if you study how the Finns think, it's not very compatible with Microsoft the way they think in Redmond, Washington. It's just culturally different. I think this guy should have taken a little more cultural anthropology. I think there's a lot of issues here. I think this is going to be fun to watch what happens. I mean, I hope they're successful, but I doubt if they will be. And I also think they're going to.
Because I think if Nokia doesn't evolve in this way, there's no way they're going to stay alive. I mean, Microsoft excels at getting their software out on devices. You know, whether it's Windows or Windows Phone 7 or whatever platform they're trying to spread across the world. That's what they do best. And Nokia has been making hardware forever, and they make more hardware for phones than I think anyone else in the world at this point. So the idea of getting Windows Phone 7 on Nokia devices across the world, I think it makes perfect sense for both brands. It may not be good for the people in Finland, but
I'll ask a couple of questions then. One, why can't they do the same thing with Android, which has apps, and we're in the world of apps, and Microsoft has none. They have 8,000, I think.
They're growing apps though, and they're going to absorb all the apps from Nokia into their store.
It's weak.
Also,
your argument? How would that not apply exactly the same way to Android? Without the royalties that you have to pay Microsoft for the operating system, which adds to the bottom line.
They tried to go to Android and it didn't work out. They couldn't work out a deal.
They said that Microsoft has offered them billions of dollars.
Well, that's
and
always
then
a plus.
And they said that they couldn't work out a deal with Android. And then today, Elop said our first priority is beating Android, which sounds to me like somebody who got pissed off over negotiations and is turning against them. Although they also said that they didn't want to take Android because it would make Android too big.
Yeah, well, there's another element. There's a political element. The European Union, specifically, made a big stink about, oh, God, if these guys go to Android, then it's going to be a duopoly with Apple and Android, and we can't have that because we know the EU hates American companies to begin with. Of course, then Microsoft, they hate them too, but what else could they do? I think they should have maybe done something, I don't know, but maybe altogether different, which they're not going to. Here's what the problem is, as far as I'm concerned, is that the Windows 7 phone, straight up, in straight competition with Android and the iPhone, shows no traction. Now,
I disagree.
Well, I mean, I'm just reading the monthly numbers. Apparently, they sold a whole bunch of phones right off the bat, and then the thing went dead flat after they filled the channel up.
They haven't released any numbers. They haven't released any numbers. No,
there's some research companies that have said, I'll have to dig this up now, apparently, to back up my own story. But
see, when Microsoft has a hit, they release numbers and they trumpet them, and they have not released any numbers here. And I think that that they are not selling these at all. When you use one of these phones, when you use a Windows phone, it's a great phone to use it. But you know, the problem is that no one's going to try it in the era of Android and in the era of the iPhone. I don't know necessarily that the race is over, but you got two companies that in terms of mobile have become clueless, and they're drowning, and they're trying to cling to each other in order to survive. And there's no indication that they'll do better together than they would have separately. They won't be any faster. They won't be any more agile. and they're not going to have the same kind of mind share that Android and Apple do at the moment.
I kind of disagree on that, because I think, like I said earlier, Nokia makes really good hardware, and they've got the reach worldwide, and Windows makes good mobile software. I think so anyway. And so I think the combination is actually a really good fit. And I think it makes the most sense for both of them to kind of go into a partnership together, and their powers combined, their Captain Cell Phone, I don't know. But, you know, Nokia didn't do a great job of making smartphones these days that people really fell in love with. And, you know, maybe with the combination of Windows Phone 7, it'll be something that they can do going forward. Because, I mean, there aren't going to be, you know, feature phones are the way of the past. It's smartphones and even lower price smartphones going forward. And Windows, you know, Microsoft can make that happen for them.
Well, like the Indians like to say, 2 turkeys don't make an eagle.
Oh, that was Vic Gundatra from Google.
Is that
who said that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, the Google guy.
Which I think he is Indian by descent.
It could be. Well, I think it's Egyptian Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Veronica,
time will tell, but I think that you're barking up the wrong tree with this thinking. I could be.
I think you are.
Yeah, I know you think I am.
All right, let me.
Obviously.
Here, I'll play peacemaker. Veronica has a point in that the way where smartphones are going is the cheap feature phones are going to replace by cheap smartphones.
Yep.
Nokia is very
good
too. At that. Right. That's what I said. Right. And so
everybody says
that at that point, if Microsoft and Nokia execute well, they can pull it off. The problem is, and this is what I said, is that they have not executed well on either of these lately up to now. And whether they can do it together is a big question. And they can't be agile and they can't be swift. They're too big.
Is the problem with the Nokia N95 and the N97 the operating system or the hardware?
I think it's the operating system more than anything.
If it's more the operating system, then I think Windows Phone
people
could help save them.
The hardware's good.
If it's hardware
the
problem.
hardware's fine, but the point is people don't make these associations. They don't take a piece, something that doesn't work, and say, well, I think that the software is defective and the hardware is fantastic. And I don't think people are even paying that much attention to any of these phones anymore, except what they can do. And I think people are going for they're going for the buzz of the hundreds of thousands of apps. And the whole app idea has been kind of rejected by Nokia from the get-go. And it has largely by Microsoft with their kind of defensive posture. Well, everything's included, and we're doing it our own way, and this app thing is overrated, and all the rest of it, because nobody. And I say the same thing with Palm and the rest of these guys who don't have the apps.
But the reason that people make so many apps is because the devices are distributed over millions of different people. If Windows has the opportunity to get on more handsets, then that means that more people are going to be willing to develop for Windows Phone 7 platform.
Well, in your defense, I will say this: everyone that I've been in contact with that does apps, they claim that the development kit for Windows Phone is better than anything ever done by anybody. So you can really crank apps out. But then again, it's like at this point you're a little bit behind in this in this race. It's like starting way late.
Yeah, Microsoft is doing what Apple did at the beginning, controlling the platform, limiting features. Apple didn't allow third-party apps at first. Microsoft's at least allowing them, but keeping a tight control over it. Which, okay, that's all fine and that's all well and good, but at this point you're 4 years behind the game. So I'm not sure how fast you can catch up.
And Microsoft's not known as a rabbit.
We're looking at another Microsoft Zune, possibly, where they have Microsoft Zune's a fantastic
product
competitor for the iPod.
Yeah, no, it's a great product, and
I
think Veronica's being swayed by the fact, and a lot of other people, that this Windows Phone is a nice phone. It works well. It's just well designed. It's a Zune phone, just like the Zune.
Yeah,
but I think there's a jinx involved here. These guys are too little, too late. They're not marketing this stuff right. They have a bad reputation. People actually want to hate them, and I think it's doomed.
It's a big marketing problem, and Nokia isn't any better at it than Microsoft is.
And they never will, because they're Finnish guys.
You mentioned the N97 and the N98, and other than kind of like the people on the show and geeks, your mom doesn't know about the Nokia N97 and 98. They have no idea how to market this stuff.
But they've heard of Nokia before.
Microsoft is losing its Microsoft mojo, its marketing mojo. I think they've been terrible at trying to market the the Windows Phone 7, and I think that probably the two of them together, maybe they might make a complete marketer. I don't know.
You know, I think
two turkeys do not make an eagle.
But two bicycle makers can learn to fly. That was Stephen Elop's response, by the way.
Oh,
two
bicycle makers.
She sees two Windows Phone 7 devices, and one's a Nokia and one's an HTC, which is one of my favorite manufacturers, by the way. Which one is she going to pick? I mean, Nokia's got this brand name recognition, too, that I think is really powerful, and I think a lot of the general population is familiar with that brand and comfortable with it. And if they want to get their first smartphone, low price and smartphone, maybe the Nokia will be the choice for them.
I remember 15 years ago, there was another big brand that had this fantastic reputation, actually better than Nokia's at the time, which was Ericsson. And now they're just, you know, they partnered up with Sony. They did the same thing. They panicked and partnered with somebody that's not them.
But we just saw two great phones coming out on Sony Ericsson.
Yeah, they're great, but you know, I'm telling you, people they'll buy an iPhone. What do you use, by the way, Veronica?
iPhone.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What was that?
iPhone.
Oh, okay, just wondering.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Audible.com. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Audible. I use it. I almost prefer. I say this hesitating to risk hypocrisy because I used to make fun of Leo when I would hear him say, I almost prefer to use Audible books over reading, but I actually, now that I've been using Audible for a while, I almost really do, because I can read when I'm walking around, I can read when I'm doing chores. I like it when we get picks for Sword and Laser, the show that Veronica and I do on Audible, because I read them faster. Have you noticed that, Veronica?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, and all my commuting, everything I do, I'm listening to audiobooks now.
Right now, the Sword and Laser pick, I'm going to be selfish and use that as my example, is the Shadow and Claw by Gene Wolfe. It's a fantastic book about a world near the end of its life, and everything is so ancient that like rocket ships are now castles because the world has just kind of fallen back apart.
Spoiler alert
again. That's not a big spoiler. It comes in like the first few pages.
Oh,
but but now that you're spoiled, you're going to have to read the rest of the book. They sell it. It was originally put out as written as two books, The Shadow of the Torture and The Claw of the Conciliator. So it's two books on Audible, which you can get for free by going to audible.com/twit2. That's twit and the number 2. Don't spell out 2. You can get 2 free audiobooks. Audible, of course, a provider of over 85,000 downloadable books. They have magazine subscriptions. They have newspaper subscriptions. You can have the New York Times read to you. So check it out. I'm going to recommend Gene Wolfe. Do you have another recommendation, V, or?
No, that's what I'm listening to right now as well. So that's my pick.
What about you, Dwight? Any audiobooks you have to recommend?
You know, I don't. Unfortunately, I'm not an audiobook listener, but I do like. I have listened in the past to Stephen King's Dark Tower series, and that's excellent. I'm
listening to that right now as well. Just almost finished up with Wizard and Glass, Dark Tower 4. I was really disappointed that The Stand was not available yet on an audiobook, because I want to go and read that before I go to...
They're still reading it.
Yeah, that's probably true. They haven't finished recording the unedited version that he put out. That's probably totally right. John, you have an audio book request? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. So check it out. 2 free audiobooks available at audible.com/twit2, and we thank them for their support. All right, let's talk about the big news that happened almost immediately after TWiT stopped recording last week. AOL buying the Huffington Post. Probably everybody's heard most of the details on this, but Arianna Huffington takes control as president and editor-in-chief of the newly created Huffington Post Media Group.
And we all love that for the one simple irony.
Now, Michael Arrington and Joshua Topolsky report to Arianna Huffington.
That's great.
It's like blog all-stars.
What could happen? What could be funnier?
I was laughing about that too, but then I don't think that's really the way the internal structure of AOL works. I don't think they'll actually have to report to her, but I'm not entirely sure on that.
On your knees, slave.
Well, and that was my first impression, Veronica. I remember several times at both at Tech TV and CNET where they would bring in somebody who was kind of maybe a well-known name in the industry and give him the title of editorial director or managing something, and no one actually reported to them.
Editorial director is a phony.
So when I saw
title.
this, I thought, well, yeah, they're going to make her head of this group, but the blogs aren't actually going to report to her. They're going to continue to report the way they are. But then people are telling me that's not true.
No, I don't think anything's going to really change. I don't think they're going to. I don't think Arrington's going to have weekly meetings with Ariana or anything. I think they'll be just fine.
I don't like this. I don't like this material.
If they want to increase their video streams, they will have weekly meetings with Michael Arrington from TechCrunch and stream them live on the internet.
Yeah, that would probably pack them in.
AOL obviously going after top name blogs. They a long time ago bought Weblogs Inc. and got all the Engadget type blogs. They bought TechCrunch recently. Now they've got the Huffington Post. Is this going to save them?
No. But I think Leo's got a shot at getting a couple $100 million for selling the TWiT network.
Not to fur. Jarvis was pushing that on This Week in Google this week as well. Do you think that's where he really is? He's not in Antarctica at all.
He's doing a deal. Yeah, that's why his plane couldn't land, because he won't have any photos to show. Because I kept saying, come on, I want to see those. I want to see his photos. I want to see photos. He's already got photos of Buenos Aires. He can show those again.
Yeah, right.
So now there's no photos of Antarctica because, he couldn't, quote-unquote, land. He's actually in Columbus.
Is Columbus where they do deals with AOL?
Yeah. I don't know what they do.
No, he'd be in Arlington.
Arlington, Virginia. So they moved to Arlington, Virginia. He used to be in Columbus, Ohio. Or no, that's CompuServe. What am I thinking?
Well, okay, there we go.
And yeah, Arlington, Virginia, just outside of the CIA headquarters.
Yeah, AOL's at Reston. They're in Reston, Virginia.
Oh, okay, yeah, right outside.
Reston.
Okay. Reston, right.
I thought they were in Dulles.
Near Langley.
Well, that's all suburban Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Right.
Reston and Arlington.
It's all Washington, D.C., basically.
The other thing people are criticizing this move is that Huffington Post has made their name on the backs of unpaid volunteers.
Volunteers, famous ones, a lot of them.
Yeah, some people say,
you know what, isn't it?
You don't have to give your stuff to the Huffington Post.
It's amazing to me they pulled it off, and now, of course, these guys. I mean, I don't know about you, but I never have not written for them. But if I had been and I was getting no money and they just sold for $300 million, you think I'm going to even write another word? Unless I get some, how about where's my kickback? Where's my, 10 grand? I think all the writers that have been writing for Huffington Post should be demanding $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 minimum.
It was a great platform for a lot of people who wanted to get their opinions and voices heard, but and obviously not being paid, unfortunately. But this is kind of a sticky situation for the Huffington Post, and I'm very curious to see what kind of conclusion they come to with the writers who have been doing a lot of writing for them in the past, over the past few years. It's kind of incredible. Are they going to back pay people, or are they going to not pay them at all? Are they going to pay people going forward?
What do you think they're going to do? I know what I think they're going to do. They're going to blow them off. Yeah, well, too bad, suckers. And off they go.
Well, it's funny. Historically, AOL has been through this before with their moderators from their chat rooms. There is a very famous precedent-setting case where AOL was hiring volunteer moderators for their chat rooms and message boards, and they got taken to court. And the court said, look, if you're advertising for positions and you give them access to your corporate network and you treat them like employees, you got to pay them.
Yeah, but this is a little different the way Huffington handled it. She didn't do it that way. I mean, I don't know that
wisely, probably.
Yeah, I don't know that they've ever advertised for any writers, and I think they just send letters out to people. Would you like to write something for us, because we'll print it. We don't pay, but we'll print it. I think it's all been up front. They haven't been dishonest. They haven't been like suckering people into writing for them, still promising something at the end. And since they did it that way, I don't think they're going to give them anything.
Yeah, they just have a big enough audience that people will want to come to them and say, oh, I have this big megaphone. And to a certain extent, a lot of the models that the Huffington Post has kind of championed and has built up, we've been trying to mimic in the mainstream media world. We're working on doing aggregation kind of in the same way that they do. We're linking to our competitors and doing the same type of things that they do. So to a certain extent, they've been groundbreaking and have changed the media landscape. I don't think that I agree with John. I don't think that anything is going to change in terms of their writers unless there's some kind of whole-scale revolt. They'll continue to work for free.
Yeah, and frankly, if the writers that are currently writing for them don't want to continue writing for them and not get paid, then I'm sure other people will step up to the bat and want that
and
promotion
not get
and
paid
attention as well.
Right.
Yeah, and also still not get paid.
Right.
They get paid in exposure, John.
Yeah, I got your exposure right here.
They can return the favor. Let's move on. Well, actually, no. Before we move on, I want to ask this one question. We saw this story from Aletta a couple weeks back, claiming that AOL makes 80% of their money off of subscriptions to dial-up that people don't need.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
So if that's the case, that's not going to last.
Well,
forever.
at some point you would think.
How can AOL continue as a content company if that's true? And I think what they're doing is very smart here, putting together these top name blogs. But is it enough? Can they actually save AOL and turn it into a top tier content company this way?
I don't know why they can't. If they have a good advertising sales network, why they can't make money doing this the way they're doing it, and the way they keep things separately branded, it gets you, I think, a little more attention. A lot of people have always believed that having a lot of flat sites rather than one consolidated site like the New York Times, where you go to different sections as opposed to going to completely different websites, like the HuffPost is not going to say it's not. You don't go to AOL then jump to the HuffPost. You just go to the HuffPost, I would think. I think it's possible.
Tom, how would you say now that AOL is not a top tier content company? I mean, with the sites they already have acquired.
Well, no, that's a really good question. Are they? They may be just by virtue of having collected all of these, but they're not perceived that way. When people think of top tier content companies, they think of others. They don't consider AOL. They forget.
Well, who do you think
Weblogs
of?
Inc.
Just offhand. Top tier company. Yahoo,
IDG, and
IDG.
But these aren't things you think
Wired,
of either.
Ars Technica. I mean, in the technical space, online content companies.
What about Yahoo?
CBS
what
Interactive.
Do you think of Yahoo?
I don't think of Yahoo as a content company.
Really?
No.
They are. They are.
They
content.
desperately want to be, but
I think they are.
I don't use them as a content company. I never go to Yahoo and read content.
Well, a lot of people seem to go to Yahoo. That's for sure.
A lot of people go to Yahoo. I don't know if they're going there. Well, they do. I do read their movies section from some movie news.
They have a lot. They have a couple sports writers that are outstanding, considered some of the best in the country. They have a lot of content on and Yahoo Finance is outstanding. It's content, but it's not necessarily organized with columnists and writers, but it's a very good one.
Well, I think what AOL does a really good job of is picking up these content sites like Engadget and HuffPo and kind of keep being hands off a little bit with their. I mean, they're still branding on those sites, but what they're really doing is taking that massive traffic that they still get from their homepage from AOL.com and sending it out to the content sites out there. And so it's not like they're a content company, but at the same time they're just kind of filtering the traffic and sending people places that a lot of other people already end up at, to start with.
And obviously I am non-representative because everyone in the chat room is talking about their favorite Yahoo content sections that they go to.
Somebody in the chat room said, "Somebody break Veronica out of prison."
On the video version, it does look a little bit like.
You remember, Tom, that Yahoo did a big content deal with newspapers where they shared content with them. There was also a big deal that they've done with the Associated Press. In fact, when you click on a lot of links on Associated Press content from Google, it often goes to Yahoo because of that deal. So they have a lot of content from a lot of varied sources, and I think AOL is probably looking to do the same kind of thing. What I want to know is, and you mentioned Veronica mentioned the idea of their web page driving stuff. I wonder how many people still use that web page as a home page.
Well, that's how Netscape, got so far for a long time, because people just leave AOL or Netscape as their homepage, and then they get millions upon millions of hits if something gets landed on that homepage.
Yeah,
it's kind of frightening, actually.
It is frightening.
Right, Microsoft with MSN.
So AOL should imitate Yahoo if they want to succeed.
There's the ironic question of the day. Took you that long to come up with something that was just like
And also,
I don't like the way this is going. Let me come up with something.
Than prison chic. Okay, I'm going for the Navy look.
Chic. All right, let's move on to HP had their big announcement on Wednesday. HP WebOS announcement. They announced an HP TouchPad 9.7-inch screen. So at least differentiates itself from the Android tablets by being 0.4 inches smaller than most of them. 1.3 megapixel webcam, 16 or 32 gigabyte storage. Making a big deal about the audio quality of it. They've got the Beats Audio by Dr. Dre integrated in there. 1.2 gigahertz Snapdragon processor, and the touchstone charging. You can get a dock so that it wirelessly charges.
Fascinating.
WebOS, like true multitasking, looks pretty interesting. I haven't picked up one of these, but does this? No, nothing, John.
I like the little phone.
You like the Veer?
Yeah,
the HP Veer WebOS.
I think it's about time we went in that direction instead of the bigger. I mean, when the Sprint Evo came out, it was like, this thing's a little clunky and a little big, and I got the feeling we're going in the wrong direction.
The Galaxy S2 is bigger too. It's 4.3 inches.
I don't like it. It's too big. I think people who don't want to carry a big clunker. You can't put it in your shirt pocket. It drags the shirt down, and pretty soon you look like something's wrong with you. And I don't know. I like the idea of that little phone. I may go with that phone.
Really, you may get
the original.
Veer.
The original Pre was much smaller than most other smartphones, and people found trying to use that tiny little screen with the cards and the multitasking system could sometimes be a little bit frustrating, particularly if you had big fingers. So I don't know how well the Veer is going to do. The thing with the HP
may not work, but I'm just saying.
Is that other than the operating system, I don't see much differentiation with that than anything else. It looks to me like an iPad clone. Now, the operating system may be very cool, but, when they were showing it off to journalists who were there after the event, they wouldn't let them actually touch it. It was kind of like the way they showed off the Zoom at CES, where you couldn't actually tap on things. So at this point, it's still vapor, but HP has one shot at making WebOS a hit, and if they don't score here, I think it's over for Palm.
Well, let me bring up a point. I wrote this up in a PC Magazine column, which I think that HP made the mistake of. There's something going on that's very subtle, which is the Facebook phone. And HTC and INQ have both made a Facebook phone, even though they don't have it branded as such. And I think that if HP had rolled out a phone that was blue, it had a Facebook logo on it and had a button on there, or even just booted onto Facebook, which is an alternative messaging system that could easily bypass SMS or these Facebook nutballs who use Facebook 24/7. I think that would have been a huge success and it would change the way things are going. But right now, there's going to be a Facebook phone. Somebody's going to do it. It could be Apple, for all we know, because they have done weird branded things. They did with the iPod, with a couple of these specialty iPods. They could do it with a phone, and it's going to be a huge success when somebody does it. But meanwhile, HP drops the ball on this. They're not paying attention to what's going on around them, apparently. And I think I agree with you. I think they're long term. They're toast.
Well, INQ is putting it out exactly what you're saying, which is the Cloud Touch and the Cloud Q both boot right to a Facebook page.
Right.
It's integrated right in the front. So you think they'll benefit from that the way you're talking about?
What, INQ and the and the HTC? Well, they're going to be rolling this thing and discussing it at the Barcelona event. So we'll see, but I think when I first heard this, I said, there's an idea that is, because the Facebook guys apparently worked with them, especially the INQ people, to engineer it so it's seamless, so you can pop it, so it actually works well. And I think that this is an interesting idea.
Facebook is your user interface on the Cloud Touch and the Cloud Q from INQ.
Yeah.
So you go right to the news feed. And there's some 4 buttons across the top for people, events, notifications, and places. It's your contact manager. It's your photo app, your videos. You can still do other apps on it because I believe it's an Android phone underneath, but it's skinned Facebook.
Yeah. Something there.
John,
I do like that the INQ phone has replaced its native music player with Spotify. That's pretty awesome.
Not here yet. We can't get Spotify.
No, but I mean, it's an awesome service. I mean, you've tried it, right?
Yeah, Spotify is great. It's just,
not here.
Yeah, we're not getting into the United States anytime soon. Although the Cloud Touch is coming to Europe in May. Yeah, they should have done Ardio. Although the Spotify app will work even if you're not connected to Spotify. It just plays only your music instead of streaming stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, John, have you tried a Windows Phone 7 device and put your Facebook credentials in?
I don't use Facebook.
Well, if you did,
sorry,
you would see that Facebook is deeply integrated throughout Windows Phone 7.
Well, I'm glad you told me that, Dwight, because I sure never know it with all the great marketing they're doing.
Right. Their marketing is awful. But if you're looking for a phone where Facebook is thoroughly integrated, it becomes your contact list. Your Facebook updates appear on the live tiles on the home screen. You can use your Facebook contacts to dial the phone. It does a lot of what the INQ phone does, but it doesn't put Facebook up, so front with branding.
I think I would like that better, for sure.
Well, you're a big fan, obviously. I want to see you dump that iPhone and get one of these Windows phones, and then I'll pay more attention.
I like the HD7. I think is a beautiful phone. I would consider switching to it.
Are you going to?
Maybe.
No, she's not doing. She's not budging.
She's not gonna.
She's just a troublemaker.
Maybe I will. You don't know.
Wow, that's a stare.
Giving you the look. Giving somebody the look.
All right, let's take a quick break, and I want to make Cheryl in the chat room happy because she was saying, you know, I really miss Leo. And our Leo actually recorded our GoToMeeting spot. So for those of you who miss him, here you go. Little Leo.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, everybody. I know I'm not here, but I thought I'd, through the magic of videotape, join you today to talk about one of my favorite topics, GoToMeeting. You know, I should have gotten Alex Lindsay in here. His whole company now is running on GoToMeeting. It's a virtual company. He's got people working for him all over the world and uses GoToMeeting for meetings, for training, for collaboration. There's no better way to reduce costs, improve your efficiency, your processes. And, of course, it saves you money. And every dollar saved on the bottom, it makes a difference on the bottom line these days. I use web conferencing, and I encourage you to do so for your business. You'll eliminate travel, unnecessary travel, which is good for everybody. You'll improve communications with the folks you work with. And you'll be smarter and more efficient. And people won't moan and groan when you say, it's time for a meeting. Now, there are other choices. I know that for web conferencing tools, but there's nothing better than GoToMeeting. It's the best. It's the easiest to use for product reviews, for sales presentations, for training sessions, for collaboration, and improving conference calls. You share your screen with the people you're talking to, so instead of playing Tetris or answering email or Facebooking during the conference call, they're actually looking at something and engaged. Makes a big difference. For companies of all sizes, because it's very affordable, $49 a month, one flat rate every month, and you've got as many meetings as you want, as long as you want. But don't take my word for it. Like all the Citrix products, we're going to give you a 30-day free trial so you can see what GoToMeeting can do for you. Visit GoToMeeting.com/twit, and you'll have all the meetings you want for one low flat rate, and they'll throw in phone and voice over IP conferencing. It's part of the deal, part of the package. I mean, now we're cooking with gas. Does anybody cook with gas? Yes. All right. GoToMeeting.com/twit. GoToMeeting.com/twit. Give it a try today. I know you're going to love it. And now we return you to the Twits featuring Tom Merritt. Tom?
Oh, thank you, Leo. And we miss you. Please come back.
Where is he?
He's in Antarctica.
Why is he there?
The Mac Mania cruise. He's there with Woz and a bunch of people. They went all the way down South America, had a meetup in Argentina. Well, John actually doesn't believe he's there, but
no, he's doing a deal. He's in Reston, Virginia.
Dulles, I think. We finally determined.
Dulles.
His pictures are very convincing. Then he's doing a good job faking the photos.
Well, I think he's been there before. Just his old leftover photos from last trip.
Do a do a search in any of the photo banks. You'll find those same photos.
They're all stock.
They're all stock.
iStockphoto.com.
Right. All right. It's just phones because Mobile World Congress, and for some reason last week, HP and Sprint both had big phone announcements, and we're going to get to the Verizon iPhone launch, such as it was, in a minute as well. But I did want to mention the Kyocera Echo. Which was more exciting to you, the announcement of a dual-screen Android phone or David Blaine spitting fish out of his mouth?
TWiT, this week in telephony.
There we go. That's what it's turned into.
Fish.
Fish? Veronica?
Fish.
I'm going with fish, too.
Fish? Dwight?
Yeah, I'll take the fish, and I'll have a side of potatoes.
Wow.
Tilapia?
You know what? And I don't think you all are alone in this. Not a lot of people really fell for the hype on this industry-first dual-screen phone. It's nifty,
Until
though.
You actually
it looks like a DS. It looks like a Nintendo Game Boy DS device.
Dwight, did you try it?
No, I haven't tried it, but, you know, until you actually put your hands on something that's that different in terms of the interface, you don't know if it's really cool or if it's really irritating.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'll reserve judgment on that. I mean, you know, if you're going to have a flip phone, you may want to have like a real keyboard, and I don't know that the form factor necessarily is right for that, for a big virtual keyboard, or for, you know, moving multiple things around on the screen. I don't know that it's necessary. Well,
the idea is it's also dual core, so you can have two things running at the same time, one on each screen.
You can do that with multitasking without dual core.
Yeah, multitasking on Android and iOS sucks.
Yeah, what is it, like a core on each screen? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you can have each core powering a screen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can do that with 2 processors.
Yeah, you could do that with the Atrix,
There's a
but
lot
there's
of
only
ways
one
of doing
screen.
I'm just saying.
Now you got 2 screens. Did I mention the 2 screens?
Somebody said, yeah, I've heard that. There's 2 screens.
If that's the case, then it also depends on what developers do with that. You know, if developers take advantage of that and make something cool with it, you know, that could be really interesting. So it's the interface and the apps, I think, that'll
Somebody says there's only 1 core. We got a bunch of people in the chat room saying there's only 1 core. You're full of it, Tom. Says, Tom, you're full of crap. There's only 1 single core according to Engadget, and they would know.
Well, we don't have enough internet for me to double check on that.
Let's see here. It says
I'm looking at it now.
under the hood. There's a 1 gigahertz.
Oh no, it's a 1 gigahertz
Snapdragon.
2nd gen Snapdragon. You're right. No, I am mistaken. There's only 1 core. So there you go.
It's only half a core on each screen.
Yeah.
It's just multitasking. Well, then who cares about 2 screens?
I don't know what the big deal is. I would like to have a phone that makes a good phone call.
I don't use my phone for making calls. I don't really care.
A lot
about
of people don't.
call quality.
A lot of people don't. They don't want to talk to anybody.
I don't like to talk to
people. They're going to
calls.
message
You're looking at it
people
right
and they're going to surf the net on their phone.
I text message people and I email
I think
people.
they should take the microphone out of these things then.
They should save a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's called an iPod
Get
Touch.
the Dell Streak.
Right.
Get a tablet. Just, use it that way.
Well,
Dell Streak 7 is much better than the Dell Streak 5, by the way.
Is that saying much?
No, but it's pretty good.
That does lead us to the ability to make calls on an iPhone, which everyone was hyping up as a big deal. iPhone on Verizon launched Thursday.
And apparently can't make a call for crap if you put it horizontally. The antennas are worse than ever.
Now, I don't believe this.
Well, that's what everyone keeps saying.
I think you can death grip any phone, and everyone immediately tried to figure out how to death grip the Verizon iPhone. I can do it to you can hold any phone so it doesn't make calls. I'm not seeing much in this death grip controversy for the Verizon iPhone that's any different than any other phone.
I haven't proven it one way or the other.
Apple has issued a patch already for the Verizon iPhone, which fixes how the phone reports data usage because you're capped. You can get an unlimited plan, but if you're capped, you want it reporting correct data usage.
What do you mean if you get unlimited if you're capped? What does that mean? I don't understand.
I said you can get unlimited,
yeah.
But if you don't, you're capped.
Oh, with unlimited, is it truly unlimited or is there a cap on that too?
Well, they've got the throttling.
Throttling. Well, then is that unlimited? Is that actually is this false advertising? And I'd like to know why the FTC doesn't go after these guys.
Well, because
they keep saying, "Oh, unlimited, unlimited, unlimited." And next thing you know, it's limited. Come on.
It's unlimited. It just comes slower and slower.
That's not unlimited.
They haven't limited it.
No, but it still happens eventually. It just takes longer.
It's just discouraged.
Tom,
yes, hi.
The issue has to do with the hotspot, which is capped at 2 gigabytes.
There we go.
So even if you have the standard.
Well, then why do they use the word? Why don't they say kind of unlimited?
Well, the data plan itself is unlimited. If you turn on the hotspot feature,
this reminds me of 1 hour cleaners. The guy goes in and says, "I want my clothes back in an hour." He says, "Yeah, it's going to be a week." He says, "Wait," he says, 1 hour cleaners. Oh no, that's just the name of the place. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, where's the FTC in this deal?
But I see what you're trying to say, Dwight, which is the problem is that if you're doing the hotspot feature, that is limited, and they never say that's unlimited. It's only receiving data that's unlimited.
Right. If you use the data on the phone, then that's unlimited. If you turn on the hotspot, let other devices connect, it's a 2 gigabyte limit, which is to me John's confused. It's a confusing situation for the buyer. Oh, I thought I had unlimited. How come I'm getting an extra? They charge you $20 per gigabyte over the 2 gigabytes that you get for I think it's $45 or something, $20.
Yeah,
that's all a racket.
That's usurious. That's usurious, I think.
So the question is, though, what the question I've been getting most about the Verizon iPhone is, A, does it really work better than AT&T, which is probably true. I haven't tested it out myself. I've seen it. Well, we saw it on Texilla, but that was just a one-time use case scenario. But the second question is now the time to buy it? Should I wait until Apple makes an announcement for the next version of the iPhone, possibly potentially this spring?
That's why I think people weren't lined up. I think people were waiting. The smart people were waiting for iPhone 5. The people with poor impulse control bought the pre-orders, and that's why they ran out of them so fast. I think most people had wised up and decided they were going to wait for the iPhone 5, and I think that's the smart thing to do.
Apple fanboys went and got the iPhone 4 on AT&T 3 or 4 years ago, whenever I can't remember exactly when it came out, but whenever the iPhone originally came out, that's when they got it. They've been on AT&T since. They don't want to pay an early termination fee to go from the iPhone 4 they already have to another iPhone 4. Right. So they're going to wait, and they may pay an early termination fee in the summer to switch to Verizon, but they're not going to do it till then. The only people that are buying the iPhone on Verizon right now are current Verizon customers who don't have to pay an early termination fee and have been on some other phone and have decided, you know what, I don't care about waiting till June. I got to have it now.
Mm-hmm. Or people who do just decide that, you know, having the AT&T iPhone 4 is just not working for them at all. I mean, some people are at that frustration level where they just can't bear to be on AT&T another minute.
Now,
but they still want the iPhone
I hate
experience.
AT&T.
That could be really expensive. You know, I think a lot of people are going to end up balking. They're going to say that, you know, I've had it with AT&T. They'll do their John Dvorak imitation. And then they'll say, you know, oh, I have to pay that much? I'll wait. Thank you.
Yeah.
What about this rumor of a mini iPhone? Wall Street Journal now corroborating it. Bloomberg has reported it before, saying that Apple will make a, well, Wall Street Journal says it's half the size of the iPhone. Bloomberg said it was 2/3 of the size of the iPhone, but basically a smaller iPhone that would be $200 unsubsidized. So potentially a subsidy could make it free.
What would be the point of it?
Go ahead.
I mean, just
free
saying,
iPhone.
what's the point? Just because it's free, but it's too small. I mean, isn't the iPhone at pretty much?
You were just saying that the phones are too big.
Generally, they are. I don't
There's
like
no
to
pleasing you now.
But an iPhone, if you no, I'm saying okay. You got me in a corner here, so I'm going to dig my way out of it. iPhones, I think, are for people who like the iPhone, like Veronica. They are optimized. They're the perfect size. Everything about them is right. I don't see you should shrink it. I'm saying just generally speaking, these phones are too big, and I don't like the big giant, you know, Evo, even though people in the chat room seem to love the monstrous thing that it is. And I would like to have a small phone that I could just, you know, I don't have to worry about because I don't sit around surfing the internet on a phone like a lot of people do. If you do, you need an iPhone that's that size. That's enough.
But this mini iPhone could be for the folks who are like, you know what, same thing as you, but I would like to have a few apps. I would like to, you know, have maybe a small game, like a little Tetris game or something, and I want to live in that.
I'm kind of torn on this because on one side, I feel like Apple really has the lock on like the high-end, you know, smartphone market. I mean, obviously they've been that way for the past couple of years, but the idea of them putting out a lower-priced, you know, phone with a few less features maybe, or maybe just features that aren't quite as robust as what we have on this phone makes sense in a way because there are still people who just can't put up with the idea of spending $200, $300 on a cell phone at this point.
But Veronica, they kind of already do that now when they sell. You know, right now you can buy the iPhone. The
$99, yeah.
For $49 now. It's $49, right? They reduced it to $49. So they kind of do that now. To a certain extent, it doesn't make sense because they could simply take, you know, the iPhone 4 when the iPhone 5 comes out and make that their $99/$49 phone.
But
it's also been interesting. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it's a $629 retail price for the iPhone. So even if they reduce that to $400 or $500, a $200 unsubsidized price means free on every carrier, a free Apple iPhone to compete with all of those lower end phones, like we're seeing from Sony Ericsson with the Neo.
But it kind of, the other thing I was thinking was that even though Apple has done a lot with the iPod to make a lot of different versions available for all different types of uses, the iPhone has always been something they've just stayed with one flavor at a time. And I don't know if that's kind of their MO going forward. Like they always want it to be one unified device that everyone kind of has, you know, the cult of Apple, I guess. But at the same time, on a consumer point of view, it makes sense for me at least to have different versions, you know, that are tailored to people who maybe don't want the top end smartphone or can't afford it.
I think there's a good point to be made there. I think I agree. I think that but I kind of like the idea that they, instead of having this huge selection of SKUs, you have the one, and that's it. Take it or leave it. One size fits all. I mean, it seems to me to be the easier decision points in the rest of it.
They differentiated with the iPod, though, and that worked out okay. They had the iPod,
eventually they
iPod
did.
Mini, and then the Mini became the Nano.
That's the argument against me.
So I could see them doing that much differentiation.
There is a form factor issue with having a phone. You know, you could do a music player down real tiny, but by the time you're working with contacts and making phone calls and surfing the internet, you know, at that point you need more screen real estate. And, you know, John, you were talking about how much you thought the Veer that you would like something like the Veer. It'd be interesting to see, you know, trying to actually use it. I don't know even that Apple could do a phone with all the things it has to do that would be comfortable to use even if it was smaller.
So the iPhone Shuffle, all it does is answer calls. You just wear it in your ear. It's just a Bluetooth device. You just push the button, it answers calls. You can't make calls. You can't dial out.
Well, you can dial out, but you don't know who you're going to dial.
With your voice.
It's Shuffle, yeah.
You just shake your head and it dials.
Could be anyone. You're like,
random.
A random call.
All right.
add a little serendipity into your life.
Not the only Apple rumor out there, obviously, but the other big one this week, iPad 2 in production. Not to be outdone, we had a rumor about the iPad 3 right after that. John Gruber referred to an iPad 3 after talking about the HP WebOS announcement. Gruber thinks it would be more of an iPad 2.5, and a 7-inch version is what everybody seems to be gathering around. Is we'll get the iPad. The iPad 2 is in production. We know that. We know it's going to have a front-facing camera. We know it's going to come out probably around
Right. Everything
April.
you wanted on the iPad is on the iPad.
Is on the iPad 2. That's just the way Apple does things. But would they come out with a fall 7-inch version? Steve Jobs has said 7 inches is dead on arrival already.
Yeah, he probably said that for a reason because he thinks it is, and they're not working on one. I believe this is a bogus rumor. And it's not the way Apple does things. Well, it would bring out half-baked in-between products.
Dwight, any Veronica obviously agrees. Do you disagree, or do you think this is just bunk?
Both Steve Jobs and Tim Cook have, swatted down rumors about the 7-inch. They made fun of the platform. So I don't necessarily think that they're going to be apt to put it out. The only caveat to that would be is if things like the Galaxy Tab and other 7-inch tablets really take off and they see a demand for it. But at this point, I don't think that's happening, and I don't think that their public statements, I think, have not been vague. They've been pretty firm about it.
The other thing is, somebody in the chat room just pointed out the iPhone 3GS is kind of a half-baked in-between product, but it really wasn't. It's just a different radio, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rev.
It's faster. It's faster.
It's not like a whole different platform like the 7-inch would be.
Tell you, anybody who went from the 3G to the 3GS knew what Dwight was saying. It was faster. It was quite a different experience. You could actually use things on it. You didn't have to sit there and wait for stuff to load.
Right.
I remember that. Now, Steve Jobs also said Apple has no need to make a phone. He said we'd never put video on an iPod, and he said no one reads. Why would we ever get into books?
Well, at least he's consistent.
Well, going with that track record, we can almost assuredly see a 7-inch iPad.
Well, also, the other thing is that Jobs said during the one of the D conferences when he was being interviewed on stage that at the time he was talking about, at one point he also poo-pooed the idea of a tablet, that originally when they were working on the iOS, they were working on a tablet, and then they decided, oh, this operating system would be great on a phone. Let's take it to a phone. So, everything that Jobs says has to be taken with a grain of salt. That said, you have them fairly vigorously denying anything. More than just Jobs. You have Tim Cook saying that. I don't believe it.
I want to expand this conversation a little bit to the ecosystem. We've got another rumor about MobileMe. Sony's been saying some interesting things about iTunes, but I want to thank our final sponsor. Carbonite, backing up files on your PC and Mac is what you need to be able to do very safely, and I recommend redundant backups. I back up locally on a hard drive, and I back up in the cloud, as well as considering the actual hard drive within the computer as a third version of all of that data. I use Carbonite for my cloud backup because it is the easiest I have ever used. It's unobtrusive, works in the background. You select what stuff you want to be backed up, and it works. You can actually prioritize it and say, you know what, when I'm processor intensive, don't interrupt me. Wait until I'm not using the computer as much, and then go ahead and back it up so it doesn't clog up the bandwidth. It's safe. Files are encrypted before they leave your computer, and it has an automatic and easy-to-use interface. You get your files back with just a few clicks, and as a side benefit of that, when you're not at your computer, you can actually access all of the files through the Carbonite website or the free BlackBerry and iPhone apps. Unlimited backup for your PC or Mac is only $55 a year. That's just 15 cents a day, and you don't have to pay a dime for it. You don't even have to put down a credit card to try it out. Go to Carbonite.com, enter the offer code TWiT. Try Carbonite for free right now. And if you decide to buy the service, we'll throw in 2 months free with that same offer code. Be sure to sign up for the free trial from the homepage to get the 2 months free. Like I said, no credit card required, and it's $55 a year. That's 15 cents a day for the peace of mind of knowing that you have your data safe and securely backed up. Check it out at Carbonite.com, and we thank them for their support. Now, there's a rumor along with this iPhone Nano rumor that Apple's about to make MobileMe free this fall so that anybody could access it and put all of their videos, their books, their movies, their songs in the cloud. We've been waiting for this since they bought Lala. They bought Lala.com, shut them down. We've been waiting for iTunes in a cloud. They say that that's going to come. It's going to be MobileMe, and they're not going to charge for it.
Hooray!
That's about time.
Too good to be true.
Oh, you think it's bull crap?
I don't think that Apple can get the licensing to make that work without really angering all of their partners that they're selling movies, television shows.
So you think it's bull crap?
And music.
Huh. Yeah, it could be.
Well, Sony, in a interview in Australia, said if we do get mass take-up of this new Sony music service, Music Unlimited, then does Sony Music need to provide content to iTunes? Currently, we do. We have to provide it to iTunes, as that's the format right now. Publishers are being held ransom by Apple, and they're looking for other delivery systems, and we are waiting to see what the next 3 to 5 years will hold. So how's Apple going to strike a deal to have a cloud service when you've got executives from their partners saying stuff like this in public?
Oh, there's some. They're doing a deal or they're re-signing a contract, and this is all.
You think
leverage.
it's just negotiating?
Yeah, it's blather for negotiation purposes.
They've been negotiating for a long time, though. Right?
Well, this is what you got to come. It comes to this. I don't know. It's
been almost a year now since they shut down
Apple is the
Lala.
one. Apple has got them by the you know what. You're supposed to say know what, and then I'm supposed to say,
what?
Well, I don't know.
Short hairs,
something.
Well, what freaks me out about this is that Apple wants a cut of everything. They want a 30% cut of everything.
And then if you look at their books more recently, I say people have been analyzing this. They're still not making any money. They're still making all their money on the hardware. And from the get-go, from the very beginning of these stores and the iTunes in particular, it's always been said that it was not a loss leader, but a break-even, maybe make a little money, but it's to sell more and more iPods. And I think that they have to ask for this much money because otherwise they're just costing them.
How does it make sense then to kick Sony out of the store because they won't sell the books in the app?
Well, if you're losing money, you want to kick everybody out of the store, and then you can break even with nothing going on.
So they're not making enough money on the hardware. They're making tons of money, though.
Yeah, I don't think that Sony. I don't think it's a loss to Apple for Sony to be gone. I think as far as they're concerned, they're doing Sony a favor, and if Sony doesn't know that, which apparently they don't. But Sony, what do you expect?
Well, Sony's mad because the e-reader app got kicked out of the App Store, and the Kindle and the Barnes & Noble app are still in there.
Sony should be mad about that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think Sony's got a point there.
But obviously...
the Sony Reader app worked differently. Sony Reader app, actually, you bought within the app itself, and I think with the Kindle and the other one, that it kicks you out to the web, and you go to a web page, and you buy there, and then it downloads it. So
Why is that a problem?
Apple's main complaint was that it actually happened inside the app, which is a no-no. Newspaper publishers have been complaining about this, that we want the ability to sell subscriptions to the print edition inside our online apps and our iPad and iPhone apps, and Apple so far has said no. So that's actually consistent with the way they've been handling some of these other deals.
They were selling from within the app without using Apple's in-app purchase structure, which doesn't allow Apple to take the 30%. That's the key difference.
Right. Well,
but
and
with,
the reason why Kindle allows
like with
it
Kindle and stuff,
doesn't
it just send you to, if like you're trying to buy a book on the Kindle app, doesn't it send you to the web version, the Safari version of Amazon.com instead? Or can you buy directly from? You can't buy directly from the Kindle app, right?
No, it kicks you out to the web. It does the multitasking thing on the iPhone 4, and you end up at a web page.
And what about that violates Apple's like terms of service or whatever it is for app developers?
Well,
like, why don't they let you do that?
With the Kindle, it doesn't. The Kindle, the problem with the Sony one, if I remember correctly, is that the purchase was made inside the app. You never got kicked out. With the Kindle, the reason the Kindle stays is that the purchase isn't made inside the app.
It's okay for Kindle to do it their way, in other words.
But I thought Kindle kicked you out and sent you to Amazon.com to buy apps. You can't buy books from within the app, right?
Yep, and that's okay.
That's okay.
And that's fine, right? But why can you not purchase it from within the app? Why
you can, as long as you let Apple take 30% of it. And what Sony was doing, Dwight, correct me if I'm wrong here, was
bypassing.
Was saying you can buy it from within the app, but we're not going to use Apple's system to process the transaction.
Right.
Right.
Gotcha.
If you don't give, Caesar its cut.
Well, so they set you up. They give you the marketing tools, and then all of a sudden you screw them. I mean, I'm on Apple's side on this deal.
Well, I guess that's true, but then it doesn't
It's
make
like the
any
Huffington
sense.
Post. I mean, if I was writing for them for free to bring this back around, and I would suspect that I could put my own links in there that would go out to whatever because they're not paying me anything. But if
it's a pain in the butt for the users.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, why
I
should
agree
users
with that.
have to waste
well,
time?
Apple's never been that pro-user. I mean, come on.
The effect is silly. It's like, let's like Veronica, you're absolutely right. Let's make you have to launch Safari. It's essentially exactly the same thing, but with a little
something
jump
Microsoft
to something else.
Do.
Let's move on to J.C. Penney, where fashion comes to life.
We're going there now?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's get out of here. This show's over. See you later, folks. We're off to Brand Central is Sears. No, J.C. Penney is the subject of a New York Times undercover story. Well, not undercover, but they hired some search engine experts to find out why J.C. Penney comes up so high for so many different keyword search results. And they found out that lots of link farms all around the internet point to J.C. Penney for certain keywords. That's a no-no under Google's rules.
It is a no-no under Google's rules.
Of course, JCPenney denies it, but at the same time, it's like, why would link farms link to JCPenney?
Out of the blue.
Kicks, yeah.
Like out of the blue, exactly. It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
No
Unless someone's
knowledge.
trying to take down JCPenney from the outside.
As Dr. Witt in the chat room says, oh my God, SEO works.
Yeah. Well, it's not supposed to work this way, though.
Yeah, well.
That's violating the rules.
Gaming the
rules.
system.
The rules. Oh, the rules.
Little black dress returned to J.C. Penney.
I was looking something up the other day, and it was just all crap. I mean, I put some search term in, and I got nothing but page after page of nothing I wanted.
This is obviously Filene's basement trying to take their stand.
This is what?
Oh, is that a regional
basement.
thing? That must be a regional joke. Sorry.
It is.
I don't. Yeah,
Filene's basement is this great discount shop underground. It's in a basement under Filene's in Boston.
Oh,
and
okay.
I don't know what, she must have been there shopping recently, and she remembers it.
I went to school in Boston. And they had it back where I grew up, too.
Always amazes me about Filene's basement is if you start looking for stuff in there. I find it's not one of the best places to get these deals because people go in there and then they hit it. There's a bunch of, they have one of these things where you have a yellow tag and then it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper as the week goes by, and then you can get it for like $5 if you wait long enough if nobody buys it. So they pick up the clothes and they ditch them in other parts of the store where you never like the men's suits will be over by the women's sweaters and it'll be buried so they can get these additional discounts. It's a mess. I don't like Filene's basement.
Okay, how about
End of story.
Should we say Nordstrom Rack?
There you go.
Or maybe
that's more like
Loman's?
it. Nordstrom's right.
Famous bar.
Sorry, I got off track. Ruined the show.
That's it. Now the show's ruined.
Didn't take much.
We might as well just talk about Howard Stern now. Anybody watch this? Howard Stern was tweeting commentary during an airing of the movie Private Parts. It was showing on HBO Zone. He went online and started doing a director's commentary sort of stream, and apparently got a lot of people watching it.
Well, that's fantastic.
So why is it that Howard Stern, who's like 20 years late to Twitter, discovers it and says, "Oh, I can talk about myself while my movie plays," and suddenly that's like news?
Well, apparently it is to Tom.
And paid content.
Yeah, or to Jeff Jarvis, who just had a paroxysm over it. Jeff is the biggest Howard Stern fanboy there is.
Really?
Oh yeah, he loves.
Learn
Howard
something
Stern.
new every day.
They should we should make do something to try to get Jarvis on Howard Stern's show, which would be just great, I think.
Baba Booey.
He would explode. Jeff would explode.
He's been on the show? Jeff Jarvis has been on Howard Stern's show? Huh.
Oh, apparently many times, according to
I
the
guess.
chat room.
Yeah, everyone's saying yes, yes, yes. Okay, well, that must have been fascinating.
So
what?
Why?
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
Yeah, you can.
It's Dvorak's uncertainty principle. He can be both sarcastic and serious at the same time.
It's amazing.
You just
It's not that easy to do, by the way.
It can hurt. That's why his hair's gray. Guy's 21 years old.
It's 23.
I was giving you a little credit. I'm fascinated with the story because it's a story, because so many people started talking about it and started flooding in on it. Like you're saying, Dwight, it's just weird that I guess it takes a fresh eye to Twitter to try to do something. I wouldn't do something like this because I'm afraid everyone would complain about flooding, which I guess some people did.
Yeah.
You just have to be Howard Stern and not care,
I guess.
Well, or you have to be following him, be a fan, and not care that that's what he's doing. I don't think a lot of people randomly follow Howard Stern. I think they do it because they're fans.
Nobody accidentally follows Howard Stern.
Right.
I think you're right. All right, a couple more before we go. In your neck of the woods, or at least in the state that you're in, Amazon is pulling out. They say because the state is charging them $269 million in back sales taxes, that they are going to close down their Irving, Texas distribution center and get out of Dodge, or rather, Irving.
Yeah, Texas has this has been trying to go after several of
money
the
grab
online Have been trying to go after several of the online operations, claiming that if they have any kind of physical presence here at all, that they fall under our sales tax rules.
What physical presence does Amazon have out in the
They have a distribution center, but their argument is that first, that the Texas law refers primarily to retail, and they're not actually doing retail. It's a distribution center. And then also that it's not actually owned by Amazon. It's owned by a subsidiary, and thus unless Amazon itself doesn't have to pay the sales tax. But because it looks like rulings are going to go the other way against them, they've decided to take their ball and go home. And if they do that, obviously, Texas is a huge market for them, and to be able to ship out of there would save them enough cash. So apparently, they would lose enough money by capitulating to the sales tax that it would negate having the distribution center there and saving the money because of the shorter distances to their markets.
And there's no state income tax in Texas, so they rely on these kind of taxes to fund the government.
Yeah,
that's pretty common, right? I mean, a lot of companies do things like that, where they don't have.
Yeah, they should move it to Oklahoma.
It's not that far.
It's not that far.
Yeah, it's a couple hours.
Just over the Red River. Yep,
right up the 35. And into Oklahoma.
I got a special tax form for spending too much money on things online.
You got you got served that tax form, or
I got sent a special tax form.
Did you really?
For purchasing too many things on the internet.
What?
Yeah, for like.
Do you have copies of that? Did you blog it? Have you scanned it? Have you shown this to anybody else?
No.
How did they know?
Should I?
Yeah.
Why?
I never heard of such a thing.
I knew you were. Letter.
Wow, I never heard of them sending a letter to anybody.
No, that's why she's got to scan it and post it. Like somebody says in this chat room, wow, Veronica, that's crazy.
I'll look into it more. I guess it's maybe a sales tax thing because I'm not paying sales tax on some of the purchases or something.
Yeah, there's a rule in California that you are required to file and pay your sales taxes at income tax time for any online purchases you made that didn't charge you the sales tax already.
Right.
But how would they know that about you?
I don't know.
They're tracking you like a dog.
It's kind of scary, right?
Yeah, that's why we want to see this letter. Come on.
All right, I'll look into it. If I feel like it's safe to post, I'll think
It's got to
about
be
it.
safe to post. Don't be cowed by these.
Yeah, it's totally safe to post. You might want to black out any personal information.
Yeah,
that's
you
in
don't
there.
want your phone number on there with all these guys watching.
I was like, man, am I really shopping that much? That's scary.
Apparently.
How did they find me? I set up like a red flag somewhere at the IRS.
List of the shopaholics.
Did they know how much you had bought? Was there a number that you had to provide?
Yeah, I have to double check that. I forget, actually. I'll look in my folder later and take a look and let you guys know.
I bet you.
And this was sent by the Franchise Tax Board of the U.S. government. Who sent it to you?
I don't know. I have to look at the form. Geez, you want me to be all prepared and stuff? Hold on.
She's going to go dig it out.
Dig it out.
This was an off-the-cusp comment, and now I have to look into things.
But
it's from the state of California. They probably demand
gets the most attention.
These online
It came from the Nigerians. Then you.
I'm sorry, Dwight. What were you saying?
She bought into it.
419 scam. They probably the California state of California probably demands that the companies provide them lists of anybody who buys goods over X amount if they're going to do business in California, and so that's probably how she got on that list.
Well done, Jerry Brown.
Yeah, that
probably
makes
a
sense.
Schwarzenegger thing, honestly.
That's a Schwarzenegger thing, yeah.
But, well, Amazon is famous for having these tax disputes, these big disputes with states. Yeah, they pulled out of where? North Carolina?
Or Virginia, one of these
Was
states.
it North Carolina or South Carolina where they said we're not gonna have partners there anymore because they wanted them to pay tax on the partners. But
and that's a big draw on Amazon. I just bought an HD TV from them and no sales tax. And it was a great price, and plus the fact that I wasn't paying any sales tax meant that I got a huge amount off versus what I would do at a store, even with a sale. So I was, I'm a big believer in Amazon.
It's a big deal. I mean, in California, for people out there from other states, we pay 10% personal income tax on our salaries, and the sales tax in California is about 10%.
And we're broke.
And we're broke. And there's still potholes in Highway 80. It's unbelievable. They can't even fix the roads around here. What do they do with all this money?
I can't find the form. I probably threw it away.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, forget it.
I wouldn't worry about it.
We've lost interest.
It's no big deal, right?
IRS isn't watching this show.
No.
Somebody just said sales tax in Germany is 19%.
Is that sales tax or VAT?
That's got to be VAT and something.
Because VAT is usually around 17%. Somewhere around there. So that
but they don't tack it on. It's just part of the price.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big fan of value added. If you're going to tax.
No, it's just, what they do, they just add it, and the next thing you know, they don't lower any other taxes. It's just another tax. Before you know it, we're paying 99% taxes.
That doesn't happen. I don't know any place that has 99% VAT.
I'm telling you, this is where it's headed.
All right. Last story before we wrap up here. Tech-unfriendly cafes in New York City, reported by New York Times' Virginia Heffernan, are banning Kindles, Nooks, and iPads.
What?
What?
Because they were tired of people dragging in their laptops, so they put up a no electronics policy. They wanted to preserve the atmosphere of the cafe. And no laptops, no electronics allowed. So when people started coming in with Kindles, they said, no electronics.
That is baloney.
Get
that
out of my cafe.
Baloney.
Well,
Come
good.
on.
Stay out of the cafe then.
What? No, I mean, seriously? I mean, the Kindle is a book. Wait, you can't read a book now?
Yeah, it's basically
in a cafe?
a book.
You're not allowed to sit there and read a book and enjoy your coffee?
Yeah, but it ruins the ambiance when you're holding that Kindle instead
you'd
of
rather
an
be
actual
holding
book.
some grimy old book from the 50s.
I'm telling you, there's money to be made in New York City right now. You could probably retail this through the Strand bookstore.
I already know where you're going with this.
It's a Kindle case that looks like a book.
Looks like a book.
I saw that coming down Broadway, as it were.
In fact, somebody's already on that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get
to
the
San
Strand.
Francisco. We don't pull that stuff here.
And get the Strand to just give you some of their used books that they can't sell.
Just grind out the inside.
Yeah. Easy. Done. All right. Shall we watch a ridiculous video, John? I know how much you like ridiculous web videos before we leave.
Yeah, I'm all game.
This is The Legend of Zelda as presented as if it were a 1980s teen movie. If you've watched any of The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller, You're going to recognize
Zelda
this.
really likes Link.
If you were Zelda, would you honestly fall for a guy like Link?
Yeah.
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 Zelda doesn't have time for distractions like you. She's going to become valedictorian of Hyrule High.
Eat my shorts.
You just bought yourself another Saturday, mister.
I'm crushed.
You just bought one more right there.
Well, I'm free the Saturday after that. Beyond that, I'm gonna have to check my calendar.
Next time I have to come in here, I'm cracking skulls.
I don't know if I should say it yet.
We don't have to say it.
How do you know what I'm gonna say?
I don't know what you're going to say.
I'm gonna tell you that I love you. Said it.
I know. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
I gave her my heart. She gave me a jar.
You mess with the bouillon, man. Get the horns.
What you need to do is find yourself a new heart container and fill it, man.
Hey, if you guys know so much about women, what are you doing outside this shop on a Saturday night? There's no women anywhere. I'm a guy. I have pride.
You're not a guy. Hyrule is full of guys. Be a hero.
And it goes on. Chat room's
Problem
already
is that
bored.
kids
Yeah,
these days
it's-
are too young to get John Hughes movies references.
Yeah, it's no good.
No
Kids
good.
these days.
No good.
Thumbs,
Boo.
thumbs down.
I mean, I think it was an interesting attempt, but it wasn't.
Better in concept than in practice.
Sort of.
Too much John Hughes, not enough Link.
Needed more Link. I think you're right. Dwight.
True.
Yeah.
Right.
Good point. Although it's dangerous to go alone, take this was a good.
Yeah, that was good.
Little
I liked
insert
that.
there.
Somebody come chop a head off with a sword.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't
would've
so much
made it.
happen in Zelda games.
Yeah, I think
could have.
I think there's a couple of sword chopping moments.
Yeah, but not so much with the head chopping.
All right. Anybody excited about Kindle getting page numbers?
Well, it's kind of ludicrous because,
Wait,
of
but
course,
how
it's
does that even
variable.
work?
The variable pages. I guess it would.
It's based on the print edition.
Oh,
So whatever text is in the upper left-hand corner of the Kindle, it has that index to what page it's on in the print
it
edition.
might
It tells
be
you
useful.
an actual page
Might
number.
be useful because some
Good
people
for citations.
Yeah, for citations. Yeah, you need to do that.
And a lot of press around Facebook moving into Sun Quentin, the former Sun campus in Mountain View.
Yeah, I know. Everybody says, by the way, when Facebook does its IPO, because there's so many people working there, they're going to get so much money that it's going to it's going to actually revitalize the housing market in California. Because there's going to be all these.
Pandora had an IPO. Congrats to them. Yay.
So we just see some IPOs around here so we can get the housing market back on track, and then we're in business again.
So Pandora's helping the housing market. Thank you, Pandora. As an undervalued property owner, I root for more IPOs if that's true.
Somebody put in the chat room baloney.
Baloney.
It's succinct.
It is. It's a succinct. Google's getting a new addition as well down in Venice.
Somebody's having a
California.
baby?
Yeah. Well, they're having an office building.
Oh.
It's not quite as exciting.
In Venice?
Yeah.
Have you
right
been
near
to
the
Venice
beach.
recently? It's changed. It used to be just the worst place in California. Now it's actually kind of nice.
Is it spruced up a little?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, because it used to be the poor hippie sister to
Yeah,
Santa
it would have been a
Monica.
nice place to invest some cash, and you've done all right for yourself, but no.
Not anymore. Well, now it's back, is what you're saying. Or not back, but it's worth it. It's good. All right, that's it for this edition. I can't make any sense anymore. I got one more. I've got to save up some powder for next week. I got one more This Week in Tech to fill in for Leo Laporte. Veronica Belmont, thank you so much for being on the show. Let folks know where they can find your blog post about your form on the internet.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, if I can find that thing. I'm Veronica on Twitter, veronicabelmont.com. You can find me every week on Texzilla on revision3.com, every month on Core on the PlayStation Network, and every week or every other week on The Sword and Laser with Tom.
Yeah, we've been doing it almost
Sword and
every
Laser
week.
about?
It's a book club, fantasy and sci-fi.
It's a book club like there's women's book
And
clubs
podcast, yeah.
that they have?
Well, except it's not a women's book club. It's just a book club. So we have.
You read a book and then you talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Do you like science fiction or fantasy?
I
books?
don't read much, to be honest about it.
I forgot you can't read.
I don't.
But you can still listen
I write.
to the
I'm a writer.
podcast.
Writers
Yeah.
don't read. You don't have time.
A lot of people don't realize you don't have to know how to read to write.
That's true.
Yeah. And if anyone can prove that,
I'm here to do it.
it's not Dwight Silverman. Dwight Silverman, thank you for being on the show as well. Let folks know where they can find your stuff online.
At blogs.cron.com/techblog is where my blog is. You can also listen to me on Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock Central Time, on Technology Bites, and that's at kpft.org. And then also periodically right here on TWiT.
John C. Dvorak of channeldvorak.org?
.com. Dvorak.org.
It's Dvorak.org, channeldvorak.com.
And you can find all my stuff there. You can link to everything, including the No Agenda show and all the rest of the stuff I do.
Thank you for being here and providing some stability.
Always a pleasure to work with you, Tom. It's good to work with a pro.
Thank you. Or me. Either one. Before we go, I want to mention that we will be broadcasting live from South by Southwest. So if you're going to be in Austin, you don't have to be attending the conference. You can come see us. We're going to be at Momo's Restaurant. There'll be details up on the Inside TWiT blog at inside.twit.tv. Eileen and Lynn have been planning this up. Lisa, they've all been working together to get it done. Conversing with Leo across continents to plan this. So please do come. We're going to have a live tech guy at 1 p.m. on that Sunday of South by Southwest, followed by a live TNT at 4 p.m., followed immediately by This Week in Tech, and then a live music following that. So check it out. It'll be at Momo's in Austin, Texas, and like I said, inside.twit.tv for all of the details. John, are you going? You're not going to South by Southwest.
No, it's like a long drive. It's too far.
That's it. Like I said, Leo Laporte on vacation for 1 more week, so I'll be back on TWiT next week. Week after that, Leo will be back in the house. I put the can down and put a TWiT in it. We're done.
It's amazing.
Just won't give me that picture.
Oh, really?
Loading
that's not that big a deal.
Otherwise, I'll let you do your thing.
All right.
Reticulating splines.
Nice. Nice SimCity reference.
Sweet.
Jinx.
I said it first. It was a delay. I said it first.
I said Jinx first.
Oh.
It's time for this week.
Darn it. I'm sorry.
Shut up, Belmont.
Hang on.